All right. Today we're talking about meter and poetry. This is our new unit. Last unit we read a lot about the Puritans and how they were portrayed in the Scarlet Letter. And today we're going to read about the Puritans from their own writings. Today we're starting the unit where we do that. When you get your textbooks, which are going to look like this, they're ebooks that you should be getting soon, then you'll be following along. But for now, the poetry that you're going to need to use, I'll put in links and assignments and stuff. So that's what we have up there right now. All right, so I'm using a lesson from the textbook, which you guys will be able to read later. But for now, just take notes and follow along, okay? You do. You have it. Oh, excellent. That's great. Well, if you have it, do you have yours, Andrew?
I do not.
Okay, that's fine. It's on 57, if you want to follow along, Cuban. It's okay, Andrew. We'll figure it out. You're not going to miss much by not having it today, because I gave you what you need, okay?
Is it 57?
Yep, 57. Okay, so when we talk about poetry, poetry is distinguished by many things as opposed to just normal writing. One of the things that makes poetry different is the meter. So that's our first keyword, meter. Meter, you should write this down, is defined as the regular pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in a line. Let me write that down. The regular pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in a line. So every line of poetry is going to have some kind of meter, right? So we have Amazing Grace. Let's look at Amazing Grace. So Amazing Grace, how sweet the how sweet the sound. That saved a wretch like me. All right, so there are two lines here, right? So in the song Amazing Grace, which every song is some form of poetry, usually, at least usually, there's two lines. We have one line here and one line here, and each line has what's called meter. Meter is the pattern of the stressed and unstressed syllables in one line. So then there's different forms of meter where you'll have certain patterns throughout, and those kinds of meters will be given a name. This pattern that we're going to talk about today in Amazing Grace is called common meter. It's called common meter because this pattern is so common. So very simple. Let's break it down into syllables, and then we'll talk about the pattern, okay? So, is the first syllable. It's underneath it.
Oh, that's great.
Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Thanks. So we have lots of different syllables here. Notice that the syllables many times are a single word. Like grace, how, sweet, the, sound. Those are each word is a single syllable. But some words have more than one syllable, like amazing. Amazing has 3. So the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables is going to be what makes a line have a certain meter. So every word, like amazing, has a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. Is down. May is where the accent is, right? So amazing. That's amazing. It would be odd if I said, that's amazing. Or, that's amazing. That would be strange, right? That's because the emphasized syllable, the stressed syllable, is on the MA. So that means these other ones are unstressed. So that's how we write it. Down, up, down. Okay? Now, the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables is the meter, but it's the pattern in a line. It's not a pattern in a word, which means even though this pattern is like this in a single word, and these are one word, the pattern continues to stay the same. So in this case, the pattern is down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Now let's say it. Does that sound right? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Right? And that's exactly how it goes. It would be odd if I said, amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Like, that doesn't sound as poetic, I guess. Okay, so now that's meter. That's the pattern. The pattern is unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. But a pattern is a repetition of something, right? So each portion that's repeated is called a foot. So in this case, that's 1 foot, and that's 1 foot. Because the pattern is down, up, and then it does it again. Down, up. The pattern is not down, up, down, because if it was, the next one would have to be down. But it's down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, so it's not a pattern of 3 syllables. In this case, it's a pattern of 2 syllables. And we're going to get to different names for those patterns as well. So, amazing grace, how sweet is the next pattern, the sound. So, how many patterns, not how many syllables, but how many patterns are repeated? Or how many times is the pattern repeated in the first line?
4 times.
4 times, right. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, any pattern that's repeated, whether it's this pattern, down, up, or down, up, down, if that's the pattern, or down, down, up, or up, down, down, whatever the pattern is, or even if it's opposite of this one, let's put it up here, up, down. Whatever the pattern is of syllables, each pattern is called a foot, a poetic foot. So this is a specific pattern, but it's a poetic foot. So what kind of foot? It's called an iamb. So here's another word. So far we have a foot, which is any 2 to 3 syllable pattern and then it's just repeated, right? So that's the idea, is it's repeated. That is a poetic foot. But this pattern, specifically this pattern, as opposed to any of these other patterns, and there's more than just these, this pattern that's used in Amazing Grace, which is 1 unstressed and then 1 stressed, and that's different than this, 1 stressed and 1 unstressed, but specifically a 2-syllable pattern where the first one is unstressed and the second one is stressed. That's called an iamb. 2 syllables. So iamb is a foot. It's 2 syllables. First is unstressed. Second is stressed. So that means that this line is iambic because each foot is an iamb. And then it has a certain amount of repeated iambic feet, which is 4. So that's our next one. Meter is the pattern of stressed syllables. Dimeter is when a line has only 2 feet. Now that foot could be a different pattern, but in this case it's iambic. Okay, so the pattern, if there's only two, like if this was not part of the line, if it was just Amazing Grace, then it would be dimeter. But this one has 4, so dimeter is 2 feet in a line. Tetrameter is 4 feet in a line. So that means that it could have this pattern. But if this pattern here is repeated 4 times, it's tetrameter. But in this case, Amazing Grace, How Sweet the Sound is also tetrameter because the pattern is repeated 4 times. But what is the pattern? It's iambic because of this foot. So that means that this line is called iambic tetrameter. Okay, because the tetrameter is iambic. The pattern of the meter is iambic. So the next line, let's break it down. That saved a wretch like me. So let's follow the pattern. That saved a wretch like me. Before I draw the squares, how many feet are in that line? In the second line. 3, right. So that's saved because the pattern is down up. That's saved is 1. A wretch is 2. Like me. 3. So that would mean that this is iambic because the patterns are still the same, but there's less feet. So it's not tetrameter, it's trimeter. 3 feet in a line. So Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. And then the rest of the song continues to be in that pattern. So now, we've got several different words here. We've got meter, foot, iamb, or iambic if it's referring to one of these. And then we've got dimeter, trimeter, tetrameter. You should know the rest of these all the way down to 8. That's what we're going to get to. But before I mention the rest of them, I want to point out what common meter is. So let's put common meter is a pattern of 8, 6, 8, 6 syllables. So this is 8 syllables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the next line is 6 syllables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 8 syllables because there are 4 feet and each foot has 2 syllables. So 4 times 2 is 8. And then the next one is 3 feet with 2 syllables each because it's iambic. So that would be 6 syllables total. And that's common meter. Common meter follows this pattern of iambic tetrameter and then iambic trimeter. And then again, iambic tetrameter, iambic trimeter. So we're going to look at some other psalms that actually do that. So go ahead and pull the PDF up of Psalm 23 from the base psalm book, Psalter. A Psalter is a kind of hymn book. A Psalter is a kind of hymn book. The Puritans, they wanted to really make sure that their worship services abided as closely to what the Bible required for worship services as possible. And part of their effort to do that was to make sure that they're singing their psalms. And they're not just singing hymns that they wrote, although that's a good thing and they did that. They were singing scripture. That's the best. Like, why would we not sing God's inspired word, right? So what they did was they took the Psalms and they rewrote them in English. So they took pastors and scholars who they trusted and who knew the Greek languages because they didn't want to translate from English into English. They didn't want to take the English King James Version Bible and translate it into poetic version because that's a step removed from the original scriptures. Instead, they wanted to take the original scriptures in the original languages and retranslate it, but instead of translating it into written English like the King James was, they wanted to retranslate it again into poetic meter so that they could sing them. So that means that their psalters, which is a collection of psalms that were written in meter, that's what a psalter is, they would sing the scriptures, and it was translated directly from the original scriptures rather than translated into English and then translated again, because that's could introduce some mistakes, right, in translation. So that was their goal, and that's what the psalters are. So go ahead and pull that Bay Psalm book open. Before we read the Psalter version of Psalm 23, which is according to meter, which is this meter, it's common meter, I want you to read Psalm 23. So can I use your Bible and read it out loud? Thanks. All right, so Psalm 23 says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." So, let's read Bay Psalm book, Psalm 23, and see how closely it is to the English version, but it's in meter. So, one, listen to the words and see how closely they translated it so that what they're singing is as close as possible to the scriptures. And then secondly, follow the meter. Try to follow the pattern and see what's going on. It's the same pattern as Amazing Grace. So, "The Lord to me a shepherd is, want therefore shall not I. He in the folds of tender grass doth cause me down to lie." Okay, so remember, it's a pattern of 8 syllables, 6 syllables, with an unstressed and then a stressed. So let's count the next ones as I read. "To waterers calm me gently leads," that's 8. "Restore my soul doth he," 6. "He doth in paths of righteousness," 8. "For his name's sake lead me," 6. Now let's focus on the stressed syllables. Down, up, down, up. "Yea, though in valley of death's shade, I walk none ill I'll fear. Because thou art with me, thy rod and staff my comfort are. For me a table thou hast spread in presence of my foes. Thou dost anoint my head with oil, my cup it overflows." So not only are they following a certain meter, which is iambic, because it's one unstressed and one stressed, so 2-syllable pattern, with 4 feet, so 8 syllables, and then trimeter with 6 syllables, but it's also rhyming those last words. So is grass, I lie, leads righteousness, he and me. So the A and C, the lines 1 and 4, or 1 and 3 are not rhyming, but 2 and 4 are. "For me a table thou hast spread in presence of my foes. Thou dost anoint my head with oil, my cup it overflows. Goodness and mercy shall all my days follow me, and in the Lord's house I shall dwell, so long as days shall be." So, that's Psalm 23, both in just a regular written English, prose, and then in the poetic meter. So, do you guys have any questions about common meter, tetrameter, trimeter, iambic? What makes iambic iambic? What makes a foot a foot? And if not, then I'll show you the rest of the meters that we have here. Yeah.
Can you explain what common meter is again?
Yes. So common meter. Oh, I didn't write it. A pattern of iambic, tetrameter, on line 1. So first line is line 1. And then iambic, trimeter. So that's going to be a pattern of 8 syllables and then 6 syllables. And then it repeats. Again, the next 2 lines are 8 syllables, 6 syllables. So basically, if you're wondering, if you're like, I think this psalm or this poem is in common meter, can you sing it to Amazing Grace? Right? So let's do that. The base Psalm book 23. The Lord to me a shepherd is, want therefore shall... No, that's a different song. Sorry, I have a different hymn stuck in my head from church. The Lord to me... I'm not even going to try. You know what? Forget it. I'm not a singer. I can sing this one, I just can't get it. Anyway, Amazing Grace is in common meter, so you could sing other common meter songs according to the tune of Amazing Grace, if you can sing, unlike me. So. Okay, does that answer your question? What is common meter? Okay, good. Okay, so tetrameter is 4 feet in a line. Pentameter is 5 feet in a line. Hexameter is 6 feet. Heptameter is 7 feet. And octameter is 8 feet.
Excuse me, chemistry
Chemistry vibes?
vibes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was, this is English class. It's a literature class, first of all, not even grammar. And yet, here we are in a literature class discussing grammar and math. Yeah. All right, so notice again that these dimeters, trimeters, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, and octameter are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 feet, not syllables, okay? So that one line of poetry could be like this one, tetrameter, 4 feet. But if the foot is not iambic, and it's a different pattern like this, then it's going to have more syllables, right? So it could be a pattern of up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down. That, whatever the words are saying, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 syllables, because each stress or unstressed is a syllable. So it has 12 syllables, and this one has 8 syllables, but both of them are tetrameter because the foot, there's 4 feet. Any questions?
And in a line means it's not a sentence, it's different.
Exactly. A line is not always a sentence. Sometimes it is. But a line of poetry could be... the lines don't correlate to sentences. Right. So it could be one sentence, it could be less than a sentence, it could be more than a sentence. One sentence could cover 3 lines. Like, yeah, they don't. Yeah. Any questions? All right. Cool. Then you're good.